All right, so let's now introduce our guest who's joined us in the studio, Millie Odhiambo, MP for Suba North. Karibu sana, and thank you for joining us.
Thank you, and sorry I'm coming in late.
Yeah, you'll give us the traffic update shortly. In about
I'm about to.
in about 3 minutes,
That
we're
I've
going into
meandered
traffic
all over.
rest. You'll tell us what roads not to use and what roads you have used and found,
Exactly.
issues happening. You are, of course, an ODM member of parliament. You're here because we want to discuss politics in general, politics of ODM, politics of the National Assembly, the effectiveness or lack thereof of parliament and all that, right? You're prepared for that? We call that the hot seat where you're seated. And that's why we've reduced this temperature to minus 2 degrees this morning.
Yes.
So it's comfortable for you. This is Millie Odhiambo. She's the MP for Suba North. Today, on the headlines everywhere, is talking about the handshake.
Yes.
We're looking back at the handshake. This is the anniversary of the handshake. Years down the road, the Nation headline is asking, was this a con as well? Actually, the headline is saying, handshake, peacemaker or con game? Answer that, Millie.
Well, I think it depends on what you're looking for. If you're looking for peace, you get peace. If you're looking for con, you get con. So for those who did the handshake who are looking for peace, have got peace. But there are people who are always looking for conflict. So even in the midst of a handshake, you will have or you will see room for conflict. So really, again, and I want to agree that it's up to you to decide whether you're a victim or not. Because when you decide, like in this situation, when the President and Honorable Raila Odhiambo decided to go for the handshake, when some of us were still stuck at fighting, and we then decided to come along on the handshake, if you see, even politically, I don't talk anymore because I'm very much at peace. Yeah, but then the others who choose that they'd rather be at a situation where people are constantly fighting. Really, you can't. The Constitution give people freedoms, including the freedom to be always agitating. So that's up to you, really. If you want to be always agitating, that's up to you.
But then if you look at now the fruits of that handshake, so yes, there was that general peace. There was a cessation of hostilities politically.
Yes.
But beyond that, what have we achieved? What have we gotten?
Depends on what the handshake was seeking to
Don't tell me
achieve.
depends on the answer I'm looking for. No, give me the answer.
No. I'm not going to tell you depends on the answer you are looking for. I'm saying depends on what the handshake was for. I think a lot of people are thinking the handshake, were expecting the handshake to perform miracles. Like me, I don't have a child. If I was in the opposition, in that sense, I would be expecting the handshake to enable me get a baby. I mean, let's be realistic about our expectations. Honorable Raila Odhiambo, being the opposition leader, and has had a handshake with the President Uhuru Kenyatta, consequent upon which there is a Building Bridges initiative, their best bet is that through BBI, that will have a better Kenyan, where people are more included, so that issues of exclusion that normally makes us fight are an issue of the past. But suddenly, you hear everybody saying there's a milk processing plant in my neighborhood that is broken. The handshake does not fix it. Who told you the handshake was to fix your broken machine? That was not the aim of the handshake. It was supposed to provide you an enabling environment to fix your own issues. It has enabled me it has given me an enabling environment to choose whether I want to go for in vitro fertilization or not. I'm not going to expect the handshake to implant a baby in my womb.
Yes.
That's up to you as an individual.
What would you say to those who say that after the handshake, some criticize the handshake, they felt sold out.
Yes.
After the handshake, those who are on the streets following Baba, who following that, the push and clamor for certain demands around accountability, one being electoral accountability.
Yes.
What would you say to those who feel betrayed that the whole agenda has been sold and that BBI is about a political settlement and we are 3 years in?
Yes, I can tell you actually I'll respond to quite a number of that category, which at the very beginning I was part of that team. that felt betrayed. Why? Because our psyche in Kenya, politically, is always to be at war politically. Our psyche is always to be fighting one or the other person, such that when we have peace, people don't know how to make a paradigm. Yeah, it's disconcerting. You don't know how to make a paradigm shift. Personally, I made a paradigm shift, and I've learned that it's actually very beautiful and enjoyable to just sit and do work for Suba people without fighting anyone, and to espouse issues of concern for me in the assembly without fighting anyone. And then I think there are people who must psychologically liberate themselves from this mentality that Raila Amolo Odinga must sort out every problem in this country when he is not even elected. That can't be the work of Raila Amolo Odinga. What if Raila were to fall down dead today? Who will be dealing with that? Kenyans must find a way of expressing their, concerns. And I've seen actually a lot of my friends, I can tell you, especially my friends from the civil society, they don't know how to deal with it. They're like, oh, Raila, you have sold out. No, he has not sold out. He's giving us a path that might lead us to a better Kenya. And I can take you back to 1997 with the IPPG deal. And I remember, because I was there, I even have a photo to remind me that when we were at Ufungamano, and as members of civil society, we felt betrayed by the political class when they went for minimum reforms, when we wanted comprehensive reforms. And I remember at one point, the late Mishuki telling us, when us as members of civil society, we said, we are not going to allow, we are going to fight. They told us, what are you going to fight with? Stones. What are we going to change with? Not stones. They said sometimes little is better than nothing. So sometimes we must also learn, as those of us who have been in civil society, that little is better than none, and we negotiate and take little by little. Incremental gains.
Right.
So in Kenya, I know that there are times when we feel like we make 10 strides forwards and some backwards. But if you go all over the world, especially Africa, we are way much better than a lot of them, because at least we are expressive as Kenyans.
Right. We might be expressive, but there's also, the concern is, maybe even if it's not around Baba, look at what happened in 2017 around the elections. Have those who are responsible for undermining that vote been redressed? Or are you saying that there was no cause for alarm? Because as far as we knew, the procurement process, the management, the IBC was interfered with. Right now, we don't have a properly constituted IBC. So as
that
far
is
as
true.
So when we say that the opposition has been swallowed, the handshake has killed the opposition, it's issues like this. Because one of the key institutions of the Constitution is not in any state to transact business, and it's been conducting by-elections while we are at peace with the handshake. So this peace looks like more of a co-option or an appeasement, because we are saying, fine, we needed peace. We have a collaborative, consultative constitution. We needed that. But we've lost the objective issues that government is built on.
I want us to go into a break, and where you'll, of course, give us a traffic update shortly. And when you come out of that,
I love that.
You'll respond to that question. 25 minutes to 10 o'clock. This is The Situation. It's Kenya's biggest conversation. In the studio on the hot seat this morning is Honorable Millie Odhiambo, the MP for Suba North.
There is no exit of opposition. As a matter of fact, yesterday I slept at around 2 a.m. And I slept at 2 a.m. because I was going through the presentations by the Abasuba community to the BBI. And we have very valid issues that are not addressed in the Constitution. And we have very valid issues that may be addressed in the Constitution but are not addressed in programs. And the BBI looks at all that kind of stuff. And I am going as a member of, going today to BBI as a member of Parliament for Suba North, representing the Abasuba people. And what am I telling you? That even as I'm going, I'm not going as a member of the government. I'm going
as a representative
as an MP, or elected as an opposition MP. And because of that, I can tell you, one of the curious things that I saw as I was actually working through this document that was worked by the community, so they gave me as the MP to look at it, and every sentence had "we demand." So we are just using a different way. So I've removed all "we demand" and put "we urge." So what are we doing? We are engaging differently. Still doing the same thing, engaging differently. In the opposition, we were demanding, and the government was ignoring. Now, because we are engaging differently, we are urging. And where they can, they listen. So sometimes you use different ways to achieve the same thing.
That what you've explained is you and playing your role as a member of parliament. Let's go into the opposition is inside
I'm just
parliament.
giving you as an example.
Mheshimiwa, can I ask?
Yes.
You're telling us, nice phrase, little by little democracy.
Yes.
But what if your assumptions are wrong and you are actually, you've entered into the pit, into the deepest part of the fire? Because while you're doing little by little democracy, our economic system has been captured. And correct me if I'm wrong.
The economic system was captured even before the handshake.
Yes.
So it has nothing to do with the handshake.
But isn't the purpose of the constitution reform to liberate our politics and our economics from state capture?
Yes.
Wasn't that the foundation of it? And wasn't that what the opposition all this time was telling us they are going to do that the state was not doing?
Exactly.
And through the handshake, and while the handshake is going on, devolution, funds for devolution are below the local revenue generated. So actually constitutionally, even though the matter is in court for determination, the promise that the opposition made to Kenyans was for devolution. And devolution is being underfunded. Nairobi is being re-centralized illegally, and the opposition says nothing. So for me, I'm saying it doesn't add up. I'm not seeing little by little democracy because our gains are being undermined as we sit here and as the opposition shake hands.
Well, so what I can tell you for personal reasons, I don't want to get into the Nairobi issue, lest I sound like I'm gloating. But that aside, what I'd want to say is in relation...
I think you need to gloat a little bit.
You need to...
No, I don't want to gloat because I have a history with the governor of Nairobi. And because of that, I kind of have been refraining from talking about it, lest I sound like I'm gloating about his misfortune.
Like saying,
I don't want to talk about Nairobi, but I would have
telling us,
as you represent
he told
the
him
opposition,
so, but she's not going to say she told him so.
We can say it for you. That you said so.
But I don't want to sound like I'm gloating. But what I would want to tell
opposition.
Yes, but I can speak for the opposition on every other issue. I'm just telling you I'm not going to talk about Nairobi.
On the position
so
for Nairobi.
I want to... No, I will not talk. I will tell you this.
Was the president right?
I will tell you that they did not go around it the right way legally, but Nairobi had a problem. That I can tell you for a fact. And I can tell you that as Millie Odhiambo, if you listen to me, and not only me alone, if you listen to us, it's just that you're used to us talking while screaming and pointing and abusing.
At the top of your voices.
Yes. But we are saying the same things, but not abusing and whatever.
But where are you
because
talking
of
now?
that,
and how are you helping?
In Parliament. If you listen to us speaking in Parliament, whether it is on the budget, whether it is on governance issues, we are still consistent, except now, as I've told you, and I was giving you the example of my constituency and the memorandum they're presenting, instead of saying we demand,
you're changing the tone of your
language.
Are
not talking down at the government, but we are talking to the government. And in some they listen, some they may not listen, but also I would want us to understand that other than the fact that, people are not hearing the voices of the opposition, the reality is that in the last dispensation, a lot of things were not done well. There was over-borrowing. There was a lot that did not go right. That is now being manifest now. Mm-hmm. And so when people are saying, and we talked and talked ourselves hoarse. Mm-hmm. Yeah, and we talked ourselves hoarse at that point when we are saying stop over-borrowing. stop doing this, stop doing that. These projects are not necessary. We are initiating too many infrastructural programs without completing these ones. We talked about them. So really, what we said then is only materializing now.
It
is materializing now, but instead
of
now shouting to say exactly what we said then.
You're saying it in lower tone.
No, we are not saying it in lower tone. We are just
saying it at all.
We are saying it courteously.
You're not saying it
No, we are saying it courteously.
Saying is one thing, Mheshimiwa, but also, and I wanted to ask, even in the last dispensation, does the Hansard bear you witness that this is what you said and this is how you voted against some of these issues?
Including being beaten and my panty being torn in parliament.
For example,
the Hansard will bear us out.
For example, even when it comes to budget and approval of budgets.
Yes.
Do we see you voting against those budgets?
Yes, you will.
Do we see you doing the same in this dispensation?
Yes.
After the handshake?
Yes, you have seen me even after the handshake, where I think the government was not doing right, quite a number of us, on the issue of the interest rate capping. We opposed. We opposed, quite a big number of us. But sometimes, also because the media, you like what sells, you turn a blind eye to that.
No, we got the opposition, and
we
were very
did.
proud
And actually,
of you.
what the public said is that we are pretending. Why didn't we amass the numbers? Can I go and beat people to voting with me? If the others don't want to vote, you can't force
There's
them.
nothing you can do.
You can't. But we were a sizable number of us who refused, and we said this is not good for the country. And it was not only that. There are quite a number of things that we have opposed, but there are also others where we have advised. Yeah,
but
I sit in the budget committee. In the budget committee, there is quite a number of things that even as a committee member, that we have actually sent alarms on. If you look at the current budget policy statement, and this is not even just opposition, it's all of us as a budget committee. Because now, because of the fact that we are working cross-party lines, it actually is more, it's actually more beautiful, because if I tell my chairman Ichungwa that this is not wrong, it does not,
it doesn't come across in a conflictory manner.
No, it's not even opposition, because he's still actually...
He's Tanga, he's now in the opposition.
He's a Tanga, but when he's in budget, he's really pushing the Jubilee agenda, otherwise he'll be out of that position as chairman. So because of that, what I can tell you is that because of that, we are able to talk to each other instead of at each other. And that is why you see the budget policy statement, we are sounding alarms on certain issues that are affecting the country.
Would you say that it is an easier situation to be in to then push for certain things to come through?
Yes, it is. I think so. I think so, because in the past, even when you are actually telling the government very valid concerns, they would actually look at you with the tinted glasses. They're like, you are just saying it because of opposition, because you want to you want to gain political mileage. You're really not genuine and stuff. I can actually tell you, because now I'm doing my third term in Parliament, that the best parliamentary time that I've ever seen was the 10th Parliament, when we had the coalition government. Why? Because it was almost similar or akin to what we have currently, where we are working together, but then again, there's also that element of suspicion. So we actually still watching, but working together. That's actually what obtains now. So it's much better than last time when we were making noise and people are cheering us out, and there is no effect on litmus paper with our noise making.
Can I say, from my observation, one of the big market difference, 10th Parliament, that period, the Kibaki era and now, is the type of leadership. We had a presidency that listened, right? Because even as civil society, we were able to demonstrate during that period. If we saw something was going wrong, violation of the we were able to demonstrate, and we didn't get shot with tear gas like now. Secondly, we had responsiveness from government. If it wasn't the office of the president never responded, but somebody high up, if there was a genuine issue raised, you would see the action. Third point, that government had created space in its systems through the GJ laws, the governance program.
Where I was actually the civil society chair.
For civil society to engage with government. So I put it to you that you the opposition party has misread the times and has gone into the lion's mouth because we are not in a democracy. We are not able to vote out this government. We voted, we don't know how our vote went. We are not able to engage this government we are decreasingly able to engage them in the courts because courts are being underfunded and have been intimidated. And our devolution is being undermined unconstitutionally with no word from opposition. So I put it to you, we are actually in a de facto dictatorship where even the opposition has been cowered into whispering their dissent to a government that doesn't listen.
Wait.
Okay.
At what point did we, at what point did we enter this dictatorship? Okay, let me ask a more point. At what point in the history of our country did we enter into this dictatorship?
Tell me what democratic freedoms are and how we are enjoying them. And I said de facto, and I'll even say it's benevolent. But our key indicators are not good because we cannot count on being able to punish or reward our political leaders through the ballot.
What I hear you saying.
So that's what I'm saying. First of all, if you cannot count on free and fair elections, you're not a democracy, right? So right now, the opposition shook hands, but have not dealt with those electoral IBC issues. As we sit to date, it's stated in the BBI, we're like, right, but this should have been agenda number one because this is the issue that brings Kenyans to violence.
At least you're facing your alter ego. This is the complete civil society speak.
I was
which you were before, which you understand. Now you're on that side where you need to respond to such
language.
questions.
Yes, okay. So what I can actually tell you for a fact, because me, I don't only do political speak, I'm very consistent. What I can tell you, which I've even said in Parliament, is that I'm concerned about deteriorating human rights situation in the country. That I can tell you for a fact, and that I agree with Wanjiro. And there are a lot of cases of extrajudicial killings that are going on. And I can tell you that, even the way the police responds to certain issues, I am not pleased with that. And as a member of parliament, an opposition member of parliament, I have told you I'll say that. But if I were to say it in the last dispensation, I will probably tell you Uhuru ni mjinga. But I'm not telling you Uhuru ni mjinga. I am telling you, I am telling you, Mr. President, please note, your people need to do something about the deteriorating situation of human rights violation. In my own constituency, there are a lot of rights in cases of insecurity. And where does this stem from? Unemployment. Unemployment is going off the roof. And we will inform the government that this is something that you need to look at. I just will not shout at the government. Why? Because we are trying to build bridges. So I can point something bad at you without necessarily shouting at you. You can equate it to a marriage. There are people who in their marriages, they fix it by being violent, domestically. But others talk and go for counseling. So for me, BBI is sort of like our counseling. The counseling session we are going through, which we are hoping, it's not an appeasement, which we are hoping will fix some of the issues, including electoral injustices.
There's the perception.
And I'd want to say, let me just respond to something that Wanjiro has raised, that people always ask that what if we find ourselves getting into a hole when we are thinking we are fixing. If you actually look at the opposition history, been there, done that, got a t-shirt, been in hole many times, but it will not stop us from using different strategies to get out of the rut. So this is one of the other ways we are trying
to get out.
But I would want to encourage civil society as well, that I would want to actually tell you that there are also circumstances that are also different. If you realize in 2010 period, the civil society was a very strong and loud voice for many, many different reasons, including the fact that we erroneously decided to classify ourselves as a middle-income economy. Most of the people who are supporting us have left, and thereby effectively kill a lot of the civil society voices. And because of that, we are also operating under very different circumstances with a muted voice of the civil society. And so there were a lot of other things. And with the Trump as the president of America. So really, a whole lot of issues around us have made it a lot more difficult to replicate almost exactly what we had in 2010, but it is a semblance of what we had in 2010.
Let me take the final commercial break of the show. This is at 5 minutes to 10 o'clock. This is the Situation Room. It's Kenya's biggest conversation. In the studio on the hot seat is Honorable Millie Odhiambo, the MP for Suba North. My name is Eric Latif. We have Ndu Oko, Siti Muga, and our guest host for today, Wanjiru Konyo.
Yes, from the conversation I've heard and from
gender
what
bias.
Actually, no, gender parity.
Yes, this is gender parity. 50 for 50.
You and Millie have been exchanging political... okay, fine. My question is this. Given the conversation we've been listening to, would you say that the Kenyan public and, of course, the civil society are drama junkies?
Well, put that in Kijaluo.
Abiro.
I want to know what junkies is in Kijaluo.
In other words, can you just...
Because, you see, the complaint that you hear about the opposition is that we don't see them enough. We don't hear them enough. We don't see them agitating enough. That's the drama.
Okay.
So people have gotten used to it to the point where unless they get a fix, unless they see the drama, they don't feel anything is happening.
Yeah. I think so. I actually agree with you. Like for me, a lot of people are asking me, Millie, something wrong with you? Are you sick?
What happened?
What happened? Nothing happened. I'm actually enjoying where I am. I think a lot of people think that we really enjoy, this melodrama. We do that sometimes when you feel like things are not happening, we have not enough, and we are not being heard. But I want to thank, the wisdom of Baba that he's told us, why don't we try another path? And
yes.
That path might actually yield something. Like, for instance, when he came up with the Constitution, 2010 Constitution, yes, we had done the melodrama and the people picketed. Unfortunately, in some parts of the country, we lost many lives. And in silence and in quietness, we attained the Constitution. And unfortunately, not many of us have actually been brave enough to write the experience of that 10th Parliament. But I saw people coming together, not talking at each other, but to each other. And through that, because at some point, in fact, if I tell you I came into Parliament, nominated in Parliament to handle Martha Karua. But as soon as I came in, we were talking to each other, not at each other. And she became my greatest ally on governance issues, on human rights issues. And I would consult and would sit. And even the late Senator, what's his name from Mukambani? Mutula Kilonzo. Even when we are coming in, he was one of our sworn opponents. I couldn't stand him. If he appeared on TV, I'd switch it off. But at that point, we would sit together, did a lot of legislation together. In fact, if you look at the National Cohesion and Integration Act, even though it was brought by the Ministry of Justice, I am the one that Martha handed over the bill to. And I worked on the bill. Why? Because we were talking to each other. So I have seen major strides that are done in this country when we talk to each other as against talking at each other.
Thank you very much.
But the problem is most of us want a situation where they're saying, they always want a person to demonize. And I think
must take place.
There must be some mudslinging. And unfortunately, I'd want to encourage especially my friends from Central Kenya, that it's unfortunate that Honorable Raila Amolo Odinga has been demonized and over-demonized in their area. But there can always be a new script. You don't have to vote for him, but you don't also have to always see him as a demon because he was demonized to you. The same way, even to me, Uhuru Kenyatta was demonized, but I have enslaved myself from that. And I am able I am able to see the good and the bad and to say where the bad is
and to engage.
Engage meaningfully.
Honorable Millie Odhiambo, thank you very much for joining us. We'll invite you again so you can come. And now this time, I think the app will
use
help
technology.
You to get here.
Yes. No, now I will not just use technology to manage, but to get me up at about 4 a.m.
You can come for the earlier slot.
No, earlier I will not manage.
So let's end this
I'm not an early riser.
with some words of wisdom from C.T. Muga. The day is proverb, and tell us what it means.
Well, every lizard lies on their belly. We cannot tell which has a bellyache. Well, I put it simply and said that it simply means appearances can be deceptive. But more importantly, if you look at things that we take for granted and don't examine them closely, it is very easy to arrive at a conclusion that is erroneous. And what Mheshimiwa has just mentioned about the concept of demonizing from one community to the other, and even within communities, different sects between the other, appearances can be deceptive. You may have been taught, you may have understood certain narratives, but you may actually be wrong.
Thank you very much. Yeah. We'll wait for tomorrow's Proverb of the Day. Asante sana for joining us from 6 a.m. Wanjiru Gikonyo, the Executive Director of the Institute for Social Accountability. Thank you very much.
Since 6 a.m.
Yes.
Wow.
You can join us at 6 next
She's actually been here since 5:20 a.m.
Wow.
You'll be our guest. You'll be our guest host next time we invite you. Thank you very much for joining us, Honorable Millie Odhiambo, the MP for Suba North. Thank you, C.T. Muga. The conversation continues, right?
Yes, it does.
And what do you say?
Have a good day. We'll talk again tomorrow.
Have a good day, folks. You forget.
Oh, sorry. Folks.
Have a good, yes.